What's up, champions? BananaCrapshoot here, doing another vlog on driving around for work, heading to a job site. I just want to talk about a little bit deck building and how my strategy with deck building has changed since the game first came out in November. I mean, as everybody I'm sure knows, pick a hero, you pick an aspect, put them together, bam, 40 to 50 card decks. Normally try to build 40, and I've stayed at that way I can cycle my deck to find my power cards, as I'm calling them, faster. Because the penalty for cycling your deck is an encounter card, and one extra encounter card every couple turns normally isn't a huge deal. If you're playing in heroic or where you are already dealing yourself extra encounter cards, is probably more of a thing to note. However, initially, deck building, I was adding, right, so these are your 15 hero cards, right, and then I start with the basics, right, genius, energy, strength, boom, in there. The power of whatever aspect, 2 of them, boom. So I'm at 20 cards already. Avengers Mansion and Helicarrier, 2 more cards. So I got 18 cards, roughly, for my aspect. And then, if I'm playing solo, I'm adding Mockingbird, Nick Fury, sometimes Lockjaw. So I could be looking at 15 cards for my aspect that I need to play. And this was at launch. So if I was playing leadership, I'm adding, make the calls and get readies, and as many allies I can fit. If I'm playing aggression, I was adding relentless assaults and chase them down, and anything I could add that was a good value proposition, which would be something like anything that would give me 2 thwart, 1.5 thwart per resource, and 2 damage per resource. I was considering a decent return on investment, and I was filling in a bunch of events, and my deck building strategy slowly changed as you realize that the strongest cards in the game are the hero cards, and it's a pretty wide margin. Like, the average damage per resource on basic or aspect cards is like 2 damage per resource. And when you get into hero cards, you're getting almost 3 damage per resource. It's like 2.7. Same thing with thwarting too. Thwart goes from 1.5 threat per resource for basic and aspect cards to almost 2, or roughly 2 threat per resource. So it is a difference. And when you realize that for your hero cards, you want to see your hero cards as much as possible, right? Black Panther wants to see Wakanda Forever as much as possible. Thor wants to see Lightning Strike and Hammer Throw. Cap, you want to be seeing Heroic Strike, right? Because you're dealing that 6 plus the stun, and the stun itself is worth 4 to 5 damage depending on boost cards. So, as I said, as the game's gone, it's only been like 6 months, right? Not even, almost 6 months, where I'm going from 15 to 18 aspect cards, and I'm pumping in as many events as I can. And now the deck building strategy is, I'm still using the genius, strength, energy, still adding the power of, still adding a couple basic allies. This is the eggs that I want. Hold up. A couple basic allies. And then I'm adding endurance and downtime in almost every deck. And I'm adding a lot more supports. And upgrades and stuff that stays on the table That way, hold up, there's a guy trying to sell something up here. Yeah, so I'm adding like endurance and downtime, I'm adding supports, I'm adding as many cards that can stick to the table as possible. That way, when I am cycling my deck, it's as thin as possible. That way I can see 2 or 3 Wakanda Forevers a turn closer to the end of the game. I didn't realize that moved, sorry. Trying to cycle those Wakanda Forevers as much as possible. Trying to get to Hammer Throw and Lightning Strikes. Trying to get to Energy Channel and Energy Absorption, right? Those are what we're calling the power cards. The big impact, hard hitting, tell the villain to take a hike cards. So that's just, I don't know, just a couple thoughts on how the deck building strategy for me has changed from the beginning of the game to now. Because like last week I played a game over Skype with my co-host Tommy of Titan, and we were doing Claw Heroic 1 with Doomsday Chair, and he was running Captain Marvel Leadership and I took Thor Aggression. And I think the only events from my aspect that I took were Mean Swing and Get Over Here. And if I was playing solo Thor Aggression, I would take only Mean Swing and Chase Them Down as my aspect event cards. Because that +3 for 0 is pretty ridiculous, and the Chase Them Down that Thor needs the thwart in solo. And in multiplayer, you got the leadership allies. You got I got Lady Sif and Lockjaw and stuff like that I can use to thwart. That I don't need to chase them down really in multiplayer. But to Get Over Here is huge because it can deal damage and clear the toughs, and it can make me draw 2 cards. So that's why those are the cards I only run in that. But yeah, that's just an example of I'm not running a lot of aspect events. And if I was running Justice, I'd be running 4 Justice and Concussive Blow as events at the moment. I don't have access to Black Widow yet because I don't play on TTS and I live in the United States, so I don't have Black Widow yet. So her cards might change that a little bit for that, but the only aspect I think that I could see myself running more events is maybe Protection, right? Because some of those defensive cards you have to trigger obviously on defense. Leadership too, I guess, right? If you're going to make the call, depending on your build, make the call lead from the front. It could change depending on aspect, I guess, but in general, I'm trying to run the least amount of events possible and run as many cards that stick on the table as possible. Even if I was 3 Honorary Avengers, that's a 0 cost card that gives me 1 health and it thins the deck. That way I can get to Wakanda Forever, Heroic Strike, Big Hands, Energy Channel, all them big cards you want, Repulsor Blast. So that's just a few minutes rambling. I'm pulling into the next customer job site now. Dang thing keeps moving. Sorry that the phone kept moving on my thing. You can tell I'm driving and not necessarily paying attention to the phone. But I'm pulling into my next customer here. So that was it. Thanks for sticking around through the rambling. I'm BananaCrapshoot. Stay scheming, champions.